So we're here at the Nuclear Blast headquarters with Billy Graziadei. I hope we got your name right, I believe.
It's Graziadei, but yes. How you doing, brother?
Okay, thank you very much. So, nice to have you here in Germany. Have you been on a lot of promotion trips during the last couple of days?
Yeah, it's been pretty hectic, but it's always an honor to talk to people, and I'm always pleased to people take the time out of their schedule to talk to me about what I do. It's cool.
Well, you have just played the Download Festival a couple of days ago, I guess it was last Sunday, and must have been one of the very first gigs with a new singer on stage, without Evan.
Yes.
And so how did that feel?
It felt a little weird at first, but we got over it. Unfortunately, Evan has got a bunch of things going on in his life right now, and he can no longer play in Biohazard, and we decided to go on after he made his choice. And we have a great record, and that's what I'm loved to talk about.
So you never questioned if you should go on with Biohazard or should quit it?
No, I mean, after I got over the first shock that he quit, it was a little weird. It was kind of shocking for us, especially because the record we made together as the four original members of Biohazard is fucking mind-blowing for us. We're really proud of it, and Evan would love to be here, I'm sure, to talk about how proud of it he is, but he had made a choice that there's other things in his life that he needs to take care of and that are more important to him. But for me, besides my family, nothing's more important than Biohazard. So it was logical that we would continue, with our passion for Biohazard.
Mm-hmm. So before we talk about the new record, just one more question about the current state of the band, because you played with Scott Roberts, but I also wrote that you wanted to look for a permanent replacement. So Scott is not going to be in the band for a longer time, or
no? Scott was temporary for those shows. The shows were great, and when I go home from this press trip, then we'll sort it out. Okay,
well, really looking forward to that one. So. One or two words about the reunion before we come to the new album. So, in 2008, you kind of wanted to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Biohazard. Now, whose idea was it to get together again and play a couple of shows?
I don't know. I don't know who or how it happened. I remember getting a phone call from Danny, and he told me that Bobby and Evan had dinner in Manhattan. I called up Bobby and I was like, Bobby, what's up? It's Billy. Did you have dinner with Evan? He's like, yeah, it was really weird. And then we just all naturally got together and played, and it was awesome. But it just seemed natural, It was one thing that we didn't do when we broke up that I regretted. It was to get back the original members together. And when we broke up in 2003, I was like, wow, I guess it's not going to happen. I guess the band's done and we'll never play with Bobby again. So when the opportunity came, it took me a second to really believe that it was going to happen. And then the more I sat with it, I was like, this is it. This is really what I wanted to do. And came right back to the band, and it's been nonstop. First, I didn't think it would last more than 3 days. Mm-hmm. And then it was 3 shows, and then it was 3 weeks and 3 months. And now we're in our 3rd decade, so it's all good.
So in between the split and the reunion, so did you miss Biohazard, or was it okay for you after the split?
No, it was okay with it because, like I said, when we finished, I closed the book. I closed that chapter of my life and put it on a shelf and was proud of it, but I moved on, And the only thing that I regretted was not getting back together with Bobby. But other than that, I had moved on. I started, different bands, different projects. I had put my energy into making a new career as a producer, opened up a recording studio, and was fine with it,
I read that you already in 2009 made an announcement for a new album, but now we are somewhere in 2011. So was it a longer decision for you to come up with a new album? Because I read that you said, okay, it felt all right to play together again, but I guess it's something different to actually decide to record and write new songs. So what actually triggered the decision to really not just have some fun together, play some gigs, but really record new songs?
I think that when we got back together and it worked, it seemed natural for us to start working on new music. And as long as the vibe of the band was cool, we wanted to continue working. So we had worked on some songs, written some songs, played them live, and then Marcus from Nuclear Blast, the owner, came to see us and heard the songs and said, if you guys do something, I want to do it with you. And it just seemed natural. It just seemed to work. But I think why it took so long since then was because we were still touring. We would work on some songs and write in the studio, and then we'd go back on tour. And we did pretty much 2 world tours, during the reunion. We've been to Europe many times as the original band. And it was just the vibe of the band. I think that we didn't focus on making a record or a CD. We focused on writing songs together. And playing live brought the live energy that Biohazard was known for. It brought that into the studio. So every time we came back from tour, we would work on new music, and that live energy is there. And when you listen to the record now, you hear it. And for me, I'm like, wow, cool. That was always what we missed, I think, in our CDs. The records never had that live energy. You go see us live, that's Biohazard. That's what you think. But when you listen to our old records, some moments here and there, but it lacks some kind of energy. But working with Toby Wright, having our focus be on the songs and not the CDs so much, helped bring us, a record that is what it is right now.
So you already said, so before you went to the studio, you already had a collection of ideas, or did you already have complete songs?
We had a lot of ideas, we'd spent some time away from each other, and I think having a chance to venture off into different bands and play with different musicians and experiment with different influences helped us grow as musicians. So it's still the heart and soul of Biohazard. That what I love about Biohazard over the years is still there. It still sounds like Biohazard, but we've grown. I've grown as a singer. I've grown as a guitar player. To have Bobby back in the band is phenomenal. There's so many elements that seem all in sync at the same time. It seems like all the planets were aligned and we made a great fucking Biohazard record. But it's true, what I mean? It is what it is. And looking at, at the moment, at the time when we were making the record and writing songs, and then recording the songs and finishing up the CD, I really wasn't focused on why or how. I was just focused on what we were doing. But now that the record's done, it seems to make sense why it came out the way it did.
Mm-hmm. So during the recording process, I read in another interview that you said we were brutally honest with each other during the recording process. Now, how does that work, being brutally honest to each other?
Well, I'll tell you this. We went into this when we first decided, cool, we're getting along. I got this riff, and then we start working on a song together. And I think one of the first songs we wrote was probably "Vengeance Is Mine," but we went into the studio, not recording studio, but just a rehearsal room where we practice, and we kicked out a bunch of tunes. We just kept writing and writing, and in 2 weeks we had 10 songs. And it was easy for us to write a Biohazard song. I know how to write a Biohazard song. In my head, that's what I thought. And as a band, we did, and it was just out of the jams, we started to come up with some really cool music. But the next, after 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever, I called up Danny and I was talking to him and I was like, yeah, what do you think? And we had a discussion about it, and there was, each song had their moments, this is cool, that part's pretty cool, I have this vocal idea for this. So just in the conversation, we realized, you know what? It's easy to make a Biohazard record, but we don't want to make a record that is an excuse to go on tour. We wanted to write great songs that all 4 of us were fucking super excited about. So we threw those songs out, and what I mean by brutally honest, if there was something about a song that wasn't working or didn't make everybody in the band go, fuck yeah, we threw it out, and we kept working on it. So we didn't focus on making a CD. The focus was on each song, and when we worked on song number 1, we worked on another song, but only when that first song felt right. And if the energy wasn't there, if it didn't make everybody go, fuck yeah, it's not on the record. We didn't work on it anymore. So that honesty helped make a record, make a collection of songs that's our new CD at a level that it is, and one that if nothing ever happens tomorrow for me, for the Biohazard, I'm proud as hell that we made a record of this stature.
You already mentioned that Tony Wright played an important role. He was with you for, you mentioned somewhere in an older interview, for somehow about a year. So how was, well, on the one hand you said, well, he was really, really important for us, but on the other hand, well, he didn't actually try to tell us, do it like this, do it like that, but he was important anyway. So how did this work?
Toby Wright, you know, he's done some great shit. You know, we're fans of a lot of the records that he's made, from Metallica to Alice in Chains and Korn and Slayer. Having him involved to the point that he was, we never let anybody close into the circle. Very few bands do. But we let Toby come in the room and hang out with us while we were writing. And he didn't interject anything. Like, he didn't push us in a direction. He let us be who we are. I know Biohazard more than anybody else. Danny knows Biohazard. Like, as a band, we know what Biohazard is more than any producer we've ever worked with. But what you don't know as a band is sometimes you get too critical, you overthink things. Toby just kept us focused, you know, and if we were working on a song and we were like, oh, that's pretty cool, Toby would look at us and he'd be like, you could do better than that. Is that really where you want to go with that? You have nothing else? Come on, guys, what the fuck, you know? So he helped keep us focused, and he came in as a band, not as a writer, but as an outside person that we respected. Because when I have my idea, I'm a member of the band. I'm close to the idea. I'm close to the song or the riff or the lyric. An outsider is like, he didn't write it, so he is more impartial. So people tend to take that opinion with less bias. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or prejudice. So it was beneficial for Toby to be involved and to have him with us for a year. I mean, we were touring, so it was like, the important thing for us was to have the live energy part of this making of the CD and writing of the songs, and you know, they're prominent during the whole process. And Toby had a lot of patience to sit there and wait for us to come back from, you know, a month later to start writing again.
So you also said that this record will rewrite history for Biohazard. So this sounds like the most important album of your career. Is it kind of that?
I think they're all important. But when I say rewrite history, it's like this. When we did the reunion tour in 2008, we started playing together, and I remember we played with full force in 2008, and I think that was the first German show. Mm-hmm. And the show was fucking awesome. People kind of wrote Biohazard off as, yeah, they had a really big album in around mid-90s, and they played Dynamo Open Air, and that was pretty cool, and they played some really great shows throughout Germany and this and that. But then they kind of just faded away. So there's all these things. When we split up in 2003, it was over, but we split up, and while we were splitting up, we were making another record, and that CD didn't come out until 2005. So and we didn't tour. It was just kind of fizzled away. There was no big explosion. It's like, when you do something in life, you have to do it with fucking full-on, 100% conviction. You know, you're not going to write an article about a band and go, yeah, their CD is okay. I asked questions, and these were his answers. That's it. That's boring. You have to fucking pull out your cock and swing it around like it's no tomorrow. You know what I mean? So for us, and I don't mean that literally, but for us,
I guess so.
Showing people what the original Biohazard, what made people like Biohazard in the 90s, you know, when we started and throughout the 90s. Doing the reunion tour gave us a chance to rewrite history, to show people, okay, this is what we are. We went on tour and we had fun, we played shows, every night was fucking on top. It was fucking amazing, it was great. That was the people's visual memory and their experience and their heart to experience what Biohazard was. But when we went in the studio to work on a CD, the CD, new Biohazard record, the new Biohazard CD, rewrites history as, okay, this is the record, the last record that they made. Whether we do another record or not, the original band made a CD that will forever change the lasting impression of what Biohazard was on CD. We're no longer remembered as Means to an End being our last CD. It's the new CD that comes out in September on Nuclear Blast.
So does this put also a special kind of tension on you? So how might the public react, or are you more cool to what might come up in the next couple of weeks, months?
Biohazard, we've always been focused on making our CDs and our songs how we want them to be. So we don't release them, we don't finish them until we're 100% happy. So for me, I already won. I'm already happy. That CD I'm proud of, and that pride isn't going to change if you like it or don't like it. I'm happy with it, and that focus has always been the main thing that we've kind of like concentrated on. We never wrote music for the record label. We never wrote music for our fans. We wrote music for ourselves. I play what I play because it's inside of me, not because it's popular or not popular, or going to sell a lot of records or not. That's an afterthought. That's something that we have no control over. I can't control if people like it or dislike it. I can't control if the record company sells it or doesn't sell it. That's beyond my control. All I can do is write a song that I think is awesome. That's it.
Have you already thought about going on tour in the next couple of months, and then thinking about, well, how many new songs are we gonna play? Because some bands who are really proud on their album, might think, okay, let's have 10 new songs, but of course there are a lot of classics to play. Or have you already spent some thoughts about, well, which new songs might be good for the audience? Or
yeah, of course. I can't wait to play a lot of the songs, but I also can't deny that people want to hear some of my favorite songs from older records, and unfortunately you can't play for 4 hours. You know what I mean? But when I go home, we sort out the situation with the band, and we love to tour, so we'll be back on tour in the fall, probably soon after the record comes out.
Okay, we're really looking forward to that. If you got a couple of more minutes, I would like to take a look at the past of Biohazard a little bit, and because especially for me and the people in Europe, the sound, the combination, and the influence of let's just call it hip-hop elements in heavy metal music or in hard rock music was something completely new, and to you it seemed to be a natural thing. So in Brooklyn, in New York, so was growing up, or being an artist in New York, in Brooklyn, a special did this have a special influence on the sound of Biohazard?
Of course, we're a product of our environment. I'm who I am because of all that I've done in my life, all that I've met, all that I've learned, all that I've experienced. And definitely growing up in New York was, formed who we were and who we are. Traveling around the world molded us. And it has always been reflected in our music. If you look at the first CD versus the second CD, Urban Discipline versus State of the World Address, it was like we no longer thought that Brooklyn and New York was the center of the universe. We realized, wow, shit's pretty crazy all over the world. So those, our music is a reflection of our lives, our feelings, our experiences through our eyes,
So the music.
So to answer your question, that was maybe a little too in depth, but yeah, we grew up with Iron Maiden and Sugar Hill Gang, and Agnostic Front and Run DMC, and Minor Threat, Black Sabbath. So all those influences, I think, came out of us naturally. We didn't sit down and say, let's sound like this. I think a lot of bands do that, but Biohazard, it was just natural for us to play what we play.
This is really interesting from my perspective, because you say, well, we listen to Iron Maiden and we listen to Public Enemies. Well, especially people here in Europe, there was a lot of separation between, well, if you were into heavy metal, you were not supposed to listen to hip hop and the other way around. So there was not this border between the scenes.
Biohazard has always been about breaking boundaries, not enforcing them, and on every level: music, social, racial, political, and we're not a political band, but we are pretty wise and pretty. Our eyes are open to the world and what's going on outside right now. So for us, we didn't care if hip hop and metal weren't, genres that mixed, because to us, I didn't listen to Ice-T and say this is pretty good, but it's not metal,
This often happened in Europe here. Well, I say, well, it's if it's not metal, then you cannot listen to it. You cannot like it, almost.
But that's okay. That's people's,
It's stupid, of course.
Well, it's your right. I mean, if you love metal, there's nothing wrong with loving metal. Metal fucking rocks. But if you like hip hop, it's cool too to like hip hop. It's no big deal. I don't think that categories are for convenience, not to shelter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You have been now around for more than 20 years with Biohazard. There have been a lot of changes in, well, what kind of sounds young people like to listen to. So how much did the changes influence the Biohazard sound? So did you always try to be as much yourself as can be? Just maybe like bands like Motorhead or AC/DC who sound the same for 30 years, or did you also try someday try to say, well, did you say to yourself, well, nowadays people like different kinds of sounds which are cool, and let's try to integrate some of the newer sounds, the more modern sounds into Biohazard?
Not intentionally. Like I said before, we never sat down and said, hey, let's make a record that's gonna sound like this, It's all just what comes out of us comes out of us. It's a very honest, true expression of what's inside of us. Biohazard was never a calculated, band that made business decisions. It's all based around our music. And what comes out of us comes out of us. At different points in our career, we release records, and those records are a mirror image of what was going on inside of us. That's it.
Okay, maybe one or two questions about you as a person, you as a musician. So, do you remember your first contact with rock music? What was your first band, your first song where you said, hey, that's cool?
Kiss.
Ah, great. Is there a special song, a special album, or?
Yeah, probably, I think it was Kiss Alive 2, maybe? I'm not sure, Kiss Alive 1. But I remember a friend of mine, I was a little kid, he showed me this record that his big brother had, and him and I sat there and looked at the record. The artwork was phenomenal. The image of the band, we were like, this is fucking amazing. And I fell in love. Of course, I didn't say fucking amazing because I was like 6, but it was pretty cool. And so that was the first thing. And I think the next passion I had for music, and every Christmas and holiday I asked for a Kiss record, and I got it. But probably punk rock was the next time that I had my life and head affected so much. Of course, listening, hearing people play bands like the Rolling Stones and the Doors and things like that was always there. But I didn't really feel that large of an impact until I got into punk rock. And then it was like, wow, the music, it's not so much about the talent as it is about the message and the delivery. And then I was like, wow, this is fucking pretty cool. And that was it. I was sold. After being severely, taken by punk rock and hardcore, and that underground scene, that was my shit. That's what I loved, hanging out at CBGBs, and then it wasn't until I really got to know Evan a little bit more that he turned me more on to bands like Priest and Sabbath and Motorhead. And to me, early before, maybe I was too closed-minded to listen to something else because, like I said, I was so into that type of music. Everything else was like, now I like this, And sure, there was the occasional Public Enemy song or Ice-T, but nothing grabbed me like punk rock and hardcore did. But till I started listening to Iron Maiden and more metal stuff, then I was like, wow, this is cool. This is awesome. And I grew as a musician and as an artist from then on.
And was there also a special moment when you actually decided, okay, I want to be a professional musician? Well, it might have been a dream for a long time, but was there a point when you said to yourself, when you realized, well, this is not only going to stay a dream, but I actually do not have to do other kinds of work. I actually can earn a living from being a rock musician?
I think that when I saw my uncle play he was a keyboard player in this prog rock band, and I was a little kid, and I saw him play, and I had already learned about Kiss. But when I saw him on stage, I was like, wow, that's fucking awesome. That's pretty cool. I want to do that. And it stayed in the back of my head, you know, and I studied piano, and then I learned a little bit of guitar. But over the years, and then, you know, I don't think it was until, you know, mid-90s, and I was like, wow, this is, it wasn't like we did Biohazard because we had to or because we wanted to be, you know, rock stars. That was never our goal. And I'm proud to say that I never felt like I was a rock star. But it's been great to be able to continue making music. And it wasn't like, well, we make music because it pays our bills. We started out for passion, you know, and we just played music together. And we were so excited about what we were doing together. We loved it. And then we went on tour. Then we loved playing live. We loved being on stage. It just, everything seemed natural. It just happened. That's it. We didn't really give it much thought.
So the very last question I always ask my interview partners is, well, I host a metal show on the independent radio station here in Göppingen, and I always ask my interview partners to pick 3 songs. Just make a wish. Just imagine you listen to a metal show on the radio, and 3 songs that you would like to hear. They should not be from your own band, so it can be new stuff, old stuff, hard rock, death metal, whatever, some hard music that you would enjoy hearing on a metal show. What would you
How about South of Heaven by Slayer, Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath, and Band in DC by Bad Brains.
So, Billy, thank you very much for spending so much time with us. I hope you have a lot of fun here in Germany and around here. Do you also have the chance to do some sightseeing, or do you only have to stay somewhere inside and
I'm here for most of the day, but hopefully I'll get some sightseeing. Dankeschön.